No. I want to hear what Piers Morgan has been saying about his Bob Vylan thing. Isn't an actual good musician. It depends what you like. I mean, what I heard a bit of one song. I thought the song was okay. Like the instrumental was a bit stale. I mean, I've heard a lot of rock music in my time, you know. Let's have a look.
Death to the IDF, death to the IDF, death to the IDF.
Didn't say death to Israel.
So that is being called like hate speech and stuff like that. I just don't see that as hate speech. We see all these overwrought like talk TV segments. Julia Hartley-Brewer did about 6 in one fucking go. People saying the BBC is like institutionally racist against Jews. Are IDF and Jews the same thing? I don't personally see it that way.
At least they said death to the IDF again.
Who are Israelis?
When people say death to America, they mean death to American imperialism that is subjugated.
No, they don't. I mean death to Americans.
That's a very generous. As the supreme leader of Iran, what they mean.
I don't even think death to America and death to Americans is the same thing, to be honest.
I don't think you even believe this as you're saying it, Taylor, do you? This is intended to be sexual. I mean, it's not.
I was surprised so many focused on the IDF chant, not that you can't get your country back, Nina, Nina. Well, I mean, that song seems more to be about, well, this is our country too. Like, this is a black guy that was born in the UK. And like some of this we want our country back stuff is people that are saying, we want Britain to be like white and British again. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you don't literally
I don't think it is. I don't think it is.
Really? I would just like him to just accept and acknowledge that he's not a real boxer having really challenging fights.
So I think when you put these guys on the spot and you're better at what they do, they just can't handle it.
It's part of your stinger. Jake Paul isn't a real boxer. Who cares?
The legendary Glastonbury Music Festival prides itself on its close ties with the peace movement and being a welcoming place for everyone to come together in the spirit of love. Not this time. Punk rap duo Bob Vylan laid crowds in vitriolic chants about Israel, which made global headlines and were condemned by the British Prime Minister as appalling hate speech.
Free!
Yeah, that's the thing. The IDF also kills innocent people. Couldn't you maybe say that, like, it's kind of an incitement to violence being supportive of a military? You know what I mean? And like, maybe in some cases that means that inciting violence isn't necessarily something that should trip you up on free speech grounds, if you know what I mean.
Free! Alright, but have you heard this one though? Death to the IDF, death to the IDF, death to the IDF. Death to the IDF. Death to the IDF.
They know the chat is inoffensive. They just want to nitpick something to distract from the genocide. Hey, maybe.
Hell yeah, from the river to the sea, Palestine must be, will be, inshallah, it will be free.
And like, listen, I find all this like performative, like activist shit incredibly cringe. So I'm like very biased against this kind of stuff. I think this like overwrought like response from all these like right-leaning media pundits in this country has been utterly embarrassing. Like, look through some of the Julia Hartley-Brewer stuff. There's so many of these like videos just escalating more and more. Now it's hate speech. Now the BBC is institutionally racist against Jews. Now the CEOs of the BBC must fucking resign because they allowed this to happen. You know what I mean?
Well, critics of the furore say it's free speech, but free speech can still have consequences. Bob Vylan were dropped by their agents today. The United States has revoked their visas. They're also now facing a criminal investigation, which in my view is probably a step too far. But the free speech defence seems to be at odds with another Brit who made global headlines, Lucy Connolly, who's currently serving a 31-month jail.
This is a fucking retarded comparison. People were actually like burning fucking hotels. That is a thing that someone could literally read and then go out and do. Death to the IDF. What's someone going to do? What am I going to do if I hear death to the IDF and I think, that's a call to action. I'm going to answer the call. What am I going to do? This is not the same thing.
Jail term, an incendiary social media post, which she deleted within a few hours. And does free speech only apply to people who go to music festivals? Joining me to debate all this and a lot more, the Israeli author and influencer, Hen Mazik, a comedian James Barr, commentator Esther Krakow, and from the United States, Taylor Lorenz, the founder of the User Mag newsletter, and culture commentator Farah Khalidi. Welcome to all of you. Taylor, let me start with you, because you reposted somebody who said this: if you think death to the IDF is a bad thing to say or chant, you don't get to describe yourself as anti-fascist going forward. Why did you repost that?
Yeah, I repost tons of commentary on news events, basically. So I was sort of resharing, which is something that I do a lot on my main page. I kind of just reshare a lot of discourse. I think one thing that's being really lost in all of these conversations is that the Israeli military...
People didn't attack hotels because Connolly said so, for fuck's sake. Well, it still happened. It still happened a certain way. And it's still a much more actionable call to violence than the other thing. So it's just not a very good comparison.
is committing genocide. And so I completely understand why, people are upset about anyone sort of calling for death, but it's important to recognize.
Yeah, surely then voicing support for the IDF, what they're doing, that's also like incitement to violence.
Is that the reason that they're calling for death to this sort of amorphous military entity is because that military entity is currently slaughtering babies and committing genocide in Gaza. And so these people that are very outraged that thousands of music goers at Glastonbury would repeat that phrase, I think that they should recognize that if they want to stop people from amplifying those messages and stop people from feeling, that we should destroy the IDF, they should advocate for the end of the genocide.
And in the Iraq War, for example, in 2003, if they chanted death to the British Army and the US military,
people were. First of all, people
thousands of people.
Timu Hassan, he does look like Hassan with a more proportional head to like his body.
Had done that at a music festival, you'd have thought that was acceptable too?
Well, I never said anything was acceptable, but if you remember, Piers, during the Iraq War, people were chanting "Death to America," right? I'm smart enough to understand.
No, I'm talking about specifically talking about death to soldiers, right? I've got a lot of military in my family. The idea. Well, hang on.
Well, death to soldiers or to the IDF itself. There is like leeway in what you said.
The idea to me that you target, in the way that this rapper did, the military who are doing the dirty work for their government, that you say death to all of them, when actually
they're
being instructed by their government to do what they're doing, is my point.
Well, right, exactly. So we should end the genocide. And yes, people are going to, if a military entity is committing a genocide, yes, they want death to that military entity. Again, that military entity is currently slaughtering innocent babies. We found out Haaretz reported just last week that they weren't
talking about an entity. They were talking about the soldiers. They wanted death to the IDF soldiers.
No, they didn't say death to the IDF soldiers. They said death to the IDF. Again, the IDF is a military entity. If people would like the public to change their sentiments around the IDF, they should advocate.
What do you think the IDF is?
It's a military organization. Again, if people want that, people are very angry.
In 2006, members of the Religion of Peace openly spat and threatened soldiers coming home from Afghanistan. That's wrong too. Shouldn't be doing that. If anyone got banged up for spitting at people and threatening them, they deserve it.
Right now, because this military organization is currently slaughtering children and committing genocide. So anybody that wants more positive sentiment towards the IDF should encourage the IDF to stop killing innocent
civilians. All right, so before I go to Hen, just to be clear, do you think he had a right to do what he did? And should there be any punishment in the way he's been dropped by his agents? He's been dropped from his visa application and so on. Do you think he was entitled to do what he did?
Well, I mean, listen, Piers, I'm a huge supporter of free speech. I think it's terrifying the way that...
Even when people talk about killing people.
How are the left the ones on the side of free speech now? It's so fucking weird to me. Apparently, like, fucking Sargon of Akkad has been, like, pushing against this whole thing. He's come full circle, I guess.
Well... He said death to a military entity. But what I would say is the criminalization of speech that we've seen in the UK is very concerning to me. Just the way that I feel like criminalization of speech, even speech that I don't agree with in the US, is also concerning to me. I don't think arrested or charged with these sort of speech crimes.
All right, but let's go to Hen. Hen, Mazik, your response to that?
Yeah, I think she's consistent, because I remember her, Taylor, posting once that young people in America don't think that 9/11 happened in a vacuum. I think that's the sort of approach that she has to all of it. But personally, I think that those people, and every Jew I know, felt the same way, that the Glastonbury fans were calling for the death of Israeli soldiers. What we hear when we hear death to the IDF is that the only line of defense between Jews and another Holocaust should be eradicated. And we know that it's fact, because on October 7th,
I think that's a bit nuts.
When the IDF wasn't prepared to what happened in Gaza, we saw the results. And thank God they came on time to stop it from happening all over. By the way, did anyone ever chanted death to Hamas in those festivals? Why is it even happening? It was truly disgusting to...
Well, if Hamas was the one bombing the shit out of Israel, they probably would be, no?
So many of us. And I mean, I think that all of those artists that are using this conflict and this war to become famous, I never heard about Bob Vylan. I don't know if you did before, or...
Listen, I'll say something very uncontroversial. If that Lucy Connolly gets freed tomorrow, I'm fine with it. I don't care. I'd argue, listen, what was her sentence? Wasn't it like almost 2 years? That is quite a lot. I'd agree with that.
Even kneecap, I just heard about them in this context, never heard about them before. But I think artists are using it to become relevant again, even though they're not. And I think it's really troubling. And it's even more troubling that governments are allowing supporting of terrorism in this way.
Yeah, James, I mean...
Supporting terrorism, saying death to the IDF. Don't really agree with that.
Glastonbury had the brass neck to put out a statement saying we would never platform anyone who's anti-Semitic. It's like you literally platformed Kneecap, who were on stage 2 years ago, chanting their support and leading their fans to chant support for Hamas and Hezbollah. Hard to imagine anything more anti-Semitic than that. They also said, infamously, that you should go and kill your local MP in a country where 2 MPs have been murdered by deranged people. So,
Yeah, 31 months is a lot. I will grant that.
I didn't understand why Kneecap were performing at Glastonbury, given that the BBC was screening all this. But then for the BBC to actually allow this to go out, when they had a way of stopping it, it seems to me, given all the furore that's raged about anti-Semitism and the BBC not doing enough to counter it and so on, a quite extraordinary mistake by them.
I mean, honestly, I'm a bit dyslexic, so when I heard that Bob Dylan was saying these things, I was very confused. I was like, why is Robert Zimmerman coming for the kibbutz?
It's not Bob Dylan.
Clearly not. It's a bit too far, isn't it? I mean, whatever side you're on here, I mean, hopefully you're on the
Yep, clutch them pearls, James. Go ahead.
side of humanity not being killed. It's a bit far. I also think it's interesting that it happened at a music festival. That's quite raw, considering October 7th happened at a music festival.
Bro, how long has Glastonbury been going on and has been like an epicenter for these like musicians doing like performative fucking activism on stage? Jeremy Corbyn was at fucking Glastonbury years ago. Like, this is normal. It's got nothing to do with like the October 7th thing. That's fucking crazy.
But again,
I'm not Jewish, but if I was Jewish living in the United Kingdom, there aren't that many Jews in England. I think it's 300,000 maybe. You know, I would have felt very unnerved watching an English music crowd, thousands of them chanting death to, you know, fellow Jews. Now, you might
I agree that Piers Morgan is unsufferable, but he gets owned like on his own show like constantly. Blossom Brown fucking destroyed Piers Morgan. Kanye West and Sneeko completely destroyed Piers Morgan. It's almost hilarious watching him fucking engage in his humiliation kink at this point. I love it.
might try and distinguish it with IDF, but we all know what he meant. He was saying, you know, go and kill Israeli soldiers. Right now, and I would say in the Ukraine...
Yeah, who's going to fucking go and do that, having just watched fucking Bob Vylan?
War. I feel that Vladimir Putin waged an illegal invasion of a sovereign democratic country and it's completely outrageous. But I don't wish death on Russian soldiers who are doing his dirty work. I think you've got to be, like I did when I opposed the Iraq war, I didn't blame the UK troops. I blame the government that sent them. They do what they're told.
Look, I'm not a leading expert on this. In fact, I think...
Well, yeah, you could make that argument. It's the IDF, the organisation, not the troops then, surely. Like, it's a snappy slogan. There's going to be, like, leeway in what it means.
Russian soldiers who are doing his dirty... And I would say in the Ukraine war, I feel that Vladimir Putin waged an illegal invasion of a sovereign democratic country and it's completely outrageous. But I don't wish death on Russian soldiers who are doing his dirty work. I think you've got to be, like I did when I opposed the Iraq war, I didn't blame the UK troops. I blame the government that sent them. They do what they're told.
Look, I'm not a leading expert on this. In fact, I think Ken actually posted over the weekend saying he was sat next to a hairdresser. That was me on this.
That Glasgow crowd would feel very differently if hang gliders flew into their music festival. Well, you have to remember, we're in the UK. We don't know what war on our shores is like. We don't live in the same kind of environment. We don't really know how it is for the Israelis or the Palestinians.
This panel, which is rude to hairdressers because I actually think they're very intelligent.
I thought your hair was gorgeous.
Thank you so much, babes.
The worst thing about you is I've had to see your...
James fucking... What's his name? Whatever his name. He's such a moron, man. Why is he here? Why do you bring him here?
massive head.
I think Piers Morgan brings that James, whatever his name is, so that he's got like some kind of rough intellectual equal on his own show.
On
Thank you.
billboards all through London because of your apparently increasingly successful radio show, which I was completely unaware of. So
Right, well,
that was a horrific sign. Coming over I thought it was coming up into London.
James Barr, sorry, that's the one.
And suddenly one of my sons went, "Dad, isn't that James Barr?" Like, whoa.
Before breakfast.
You loved it.
Gigantic gurning head staring
This
at
isn't
me. Then he
about
crashed my
me.
car. Anyway, to more serious matters. I mean, do you condemn it? Do you think it was wrong that he did this?
That he started a chant.
Yeah.
Well, it's inciting violence, isn't it? What I think is interesting is that you are always very pro.
This is infantile. Was the chat a bit cringe? Yes. Who cares to this degree compared to the actual horrors being committed? Well, yeah, I agree, yeah. This is so overwrought. It's so ridiculous. Like, I urge anyone to, like, go and watch some of the fucking Talk TV segments about this. Pretty much all of them are doing it. Jeremy Kyle's on it. Fucking Mike Graham's on it. Julia Hartley-Brewer did about 6 in one go.
Freedom of speech, but as soon as it is...
Until they incite violence.
It's a good learning opportunity. Like, hate speech is different to freedom of speech, and there should be a...
But it's not hate speech.
Well, actually, I mean, it's criminalised. In America, you can't incite violence.
Yeah.
It's
I think that
First
line
Amendment.
has never been crossed. They've never said free.
Well, surely you can incite violence. I mean, surely if you're like giving your support to a military operation that your military is doing in another country, isn't that somewhat like an incitement to violence?
I don't think it's a difficult moral line. Honestly, I don't. I think
Isn't it an incitement to violence to say hang pedos? Do people get in trouble for that?
the free speech line, when they try and use that as defense for actually encouraging violence, when Kneecap said, go and kill your local MP.
Was what Lucy Connolly did free speech. I need to know what his actual take is on it, rather than just comparing them. What's his take on Lucy Connolly in isolation? I'd love to know.
Knowing that 2 local MPs have been killed.
Yeah.
Right? That, I'm afraid, that's not a free speech issue. That is an incitement to murder.
And
right?
also
And
context
similarly, when
matters.
you get this idiot up there on stage, knowing exactly what he's doing, and he probably in cahoots with Kneecap, I don't know, but it looked to me like they'd encouraged people to go there early, so they caught this guy. Kneecap were not going to be put on BBC. This other guy was.
What was it one guy said? Something like, oh, well, none of the people watching Rod Stewart were holding like Palestine flags. Yeah, I wonder why. I wonder why that was.
It looked to me like there was probably a conversation. And then he just brazenly says, death to the IDF. Shocking to me.
Well, I'm not one for road
Oh, so brazenly said it. Let's just keep adding adjectives and make it sound as bad as possible.
and geopolitics, which he seems to subscribe to. But also with the whole incitement to violence, context matters. So John Stuart Mill said, you know, if you say kill a corn dealer outside of a corn dealer's house, that's different to shouting that in the middle of Trafalgar Square. And I don't think Hamas are waiting for the opinion of people that go to Glastonbury and pay £400 to be in smelly toilets and tents to actually, incite violence against the IDF. But it is unsightly. The big scandal here is obviously the BBC. There is no reason why they shouldn't have had some sort of playback or something that slowed down the stream.
Especially all the trouble they've had with Gary Lineker and everything.
But Glastonbury is infamous for this.
I just don't care about this. I'm sorry. I don't give a fuck about this.
We saw Stormzy a few years ago, shouting F Boris Johnson and encouraging the crowd to do that. We know the kinds of people that go to Glastonbury, and we know the kinds of
And a cursory look at this rapper's background and the stuff. He talked about killing the Queen, right?
I mean,
he's on the record of saying the most despicable things. Why is
I want to see his quotes. You can't just say he's talked about this. You have to show the quote.
he being given a platform?
I don't mind that. There are all sorts of cranks that get given a platform. Greta Thunberg, who hasn't done anything useful with her life, got on a fishing boat to Gaza. I mean, it doesn't bother me that random people do stupid things. It's the fact that the BBC, which actually has a responsibility to not air hatred, failed spectacularly at this. They didn't even see it coming, which is shocking.
Taylor, let me bring Taylor back here. Do you agree?
I just don't care about that. I'm sorry. It got aired. Wow, amazing.
That free speech does not come without accountability. Otherwise, you can say what you want to say, and he did, and he got what he wanted, a blaze of publicity, a blaze of headlines. But now he's feeling the icy chill of accountability dropped by his agency, United Talent Agency, had his visa revoked and so on, which will affect the tour that he was planning to do, or they were as a group. I mean, do you think that that is appropriate punishment if you incite violence?
I think what Hen said about how, artists are doing this for publicity, I disagree with that because it's not beneficial to their carees. Well,
it can be. Kneecap have seen massive ticket sales despite being banned from various places. In fact, when you get banned, it tends to have the opposite effect, which is...
God save the Queen. She ain't no human being. This isn't shocking. I wonder if this is hate speech to anyone. Hang on. I know I shouldn't repeat this, but I'd love to take my Queen's neck and then shout off with her head and paint a cross with her blood. Wonder.
Probably what will happen with these guys.
I think losing out the way that musicians make money is primarily through touring, especially if you're a small musician. And if you suddenly can't tour and you're shut out of the largest market in the West, which is America, I do think that will have a significant impact, on his career. I just want to say again that we need to keep the focus on the genocide. I mean, we had hundreds of Israelis chanting "death to Arabs," right, which was completely shocking. Just
condemned by everyone.
Well, I certainly didn't see a lot of the people that are freaking out about Bob Vylan speaking in the same way.
You should follow me because you would see the post that I made calling this out, as well as the Israeli government itself that has issued condemnation of it. Okay, well, that's good to hear that they did that. Now, what they should do next is stop the genocide. Again, if people want the public and these artists to have more positive sentiment towards these Israeli military forces, then I don't think anyone wants positive sentiment. I don't know why you twisted it around. We're saying we don't want anyone to call for the death of anyone. I mean, if you are advocating against genocide and you don't want people to be killed, how can you turn around and say at the same breath that you think chanting for...
Does this person support what the IDF is doing in Gaza? I wonder.
Death should be contextualized somehow?
Well, yeah, because again, if an army is committing genocide and slaughter...
If you say, I support what the IDF is doing in Gaza, isn't that effectively glorifying the killings of people? Isn't that effectively some kind of incitement to violence? My point is, it isn't edgy at all. No, it's not. It's not edgy. Like, fucking hell. I bet if I look through Bob Vylan's like songs, I bet it's like nothing. You know what I mean? Like I've heard the Heard You Want Your Country Back song. It's really not that edgy. It's really not that shocking. And it seems more like he's saying like, well, it's my country too. And it's about like the kind of racist people that say, I want my country back when they mean, I want it to be like white Britain. You know what I mean?
Slaughtering babies and creating the highest rate of child amputees in the world. And if that is what they have done for months and years now, and then the public is rightfully outraged about that
calling
genocide.
for their death. That's the issue. It's not.
Calling for the death of a military entity that is currently committing genocide.
Taylor, you can't keep saying that.
It's a compulsory army.
You don't even believe that when you're saying it.
Yeah.
If they said death to the British Army, no one's taking that as meaning the institution. They're taking it as meaning.
It's a bit different saying death to the British Army on UK soil at a UK festival. You know what I mean?
British soldiers.
When people say death to America, they mean death to American imperialism that is subjugated.
No, they don't. They mean death to Americans.
That's a very generous.
Right, surely it depends on who's saying what. It's a bit like from the river to the sea. There are people that say that means wipe out Israel. Does that mean that some random fucking hipster in fucking New York or whatever saying that means that they want to wipe out Israel? I don't think that's necessarily the case.
Supreme leader of Iran, what they mean.
I don't think you even believe this as you're saying it, Taylor, do you?
Again, they didn't say death to Israelis. They said death to the IDF. Again,
who are Israelis?
Genocide.
It's a compulsory service. We have to join the army in Israel.
You can choose to not join the army.
But I mean, listen, I've been seeing this conflated to mean all Jews. All Jews don't have to join the IDF.
Of course,
and go to prison.
Between participating in a genocide and slaughtering innocent babies and consciously objecting.
Yeah, but my point, look, Taylor, my point would be, I have a lot of criticism of what the Israeli government is doing in Gaza right now. I think it's gone way beyond self-defense. I've said this publicly. I'm getting hammered for it by a lot of the more extreme people on the.
Exploited has a song called Maggie You Can't. Cannot even get the pearls to clutch your eyes. Yeah, I agree. Like, music has always been like this. Like, people make like crazy statements in their songs. Like, it's meant to be shocking.
The pro-Israeli side, which is fine. I don't care. I got hammered by the extreme pro-Palestinians earlier in this war. It doesn't matter. I try and be intellectually honest, and in this case, I can quite easily be critical of what Netanyahu's doing in Gaza and say it's gone way too far and it has to stop. And at the same time, recognise that having a rapper on a stage at an English music festival chanting death to the IDF, it's also disgusting and should also be condemned outright by.
Oh, it's disgusting. Please condemn.
Everybody, and if people can't condemn it, and all due respect, if you try and twist it in,
yeah, let's all condemn it. That'll fucking do anything whatsoever. Wow.
Well, he was just talking about the institution, not about individual IDF soldiers. Come off it.
But also, individual IDF soldiers are committing genocide. Individual IDF soldiers are committing war crimes. And again, we need to.
They are doing what they're doing at the behest of their government, as all military do. It would be like saying individual soldiers in Iraq from Britain were the.
I mean, the IDF will be an arm of the government, right?
Real problem, when in fact the problem was the government that sent them.
I think the problem is the government, and the problem is the people that support the government. The problem is
but soldiers don't get a chance. You don't get a chance. You sign up to your military and you do what you're told.
Okay, again, I do think that we need to remember that there is a genocide happening, and all of these people that are anti-death.
But that's kind of irrelevant. It's kind of irrelevant to what we're talking about. When no one's talking.
It's not fucking irrelevant. That's the whole point. That's the whole reason why people are doing this. That's the whole reason why they say this shit.
No one's talking about what you think is a genocide, what other people think is an unnecessary slaughter, other people trying to defend it. That is one issue, but that's nothing to do with the right of a rapper to actively call for the deaths of people.
The reason why people were chanting that at Glastonbury is because there is so much anti-genocide sentiment.
Yeah, Winnipeg, I do wonder how much of the reason why they did that was to get all these like right-leaning media types fucking fuming, get them all boiling over. Yeah, that chant is not anti-Semitic, in my opinion. Like, the IDF is not Jews.
Because people want the military to stop committing a genocide.
They want it's not to stop committing a genocide. They want it to die. It's
to the IDF.
Well, I think there are lots of people that agree with you.
Let me bring Esther, I want to read you what Bobby Vylan, the front man, posted a response. And I said what I said. As we grow older, he wrote, and our fire possibly starts to dim under the suffocation of adult life and all its responsibilities, incredibly important that we encourage and inspire future generations to pick up the torch that was passed to us. Let them see us marching in the streets, campaigning on ground level, organising online and shouting about it on every stage that we are offered. Today is a change in school dinners, tomorrow's a change in foreign policy. And he kept citing his daughter and everything else. What he didn't do, Esther, was apologise, right? So you've got this contrast with the way...
Oh, he didn't apologise. Oh, no.
This woman who was a carer, who
He's such a fucking fanny, man. He's such a fucking loser. It's always about, well, you have to condemn this that happened. Well, they have to apologize. It's like he's actually such a snowflake. How did he get away for so many years? How did he get away with calling other people snowflakes? I have no idea. Because he was like one of the main ones doing it. He used to call people snowflakes, call people woke. Like it was going out of fashion. And it very much was. Because if Piers Morgan is doing it, it's probably going out of fashion. How can he get away with that shit? When most of the time, it's the most pearl-clutching fucking whiny shits.
who posted incredibly inflammatory incitement to violence after the Stockport murders, realised after a few hours that she shouldn't have done it, deleted it, apologised, but is now serving a 21-month prison sentence.
Yeah.
Right?
How does he feel about this in isolation? It's so fucking frustrating that these people get to bring stuff like this up in comparison to something else, but never actually say what they think. Does he think that she should have been jailed for this? If he doesn't think she should have even been jailed for this, why the fuck does he have any problem with the Bob Vylan thing?
A clear double standard in the way she's been treated and the way so far this rapper's been treated, or indeed the way that Kneecap were treated for openly calling for MPs to be killed.
Yeah, and this is in a country where 30 people...
Wait, what did Kneecap even say? Like, just bring up like quotes, man. Just say exactly what they said. I don't trust any of these people when they sum things up.
People a day are being, imprisoned for online messages, that's the context we're existing in. Look, I'm not surprised that he didn't apologize, but I think the problem with taking his punishment too far is he becomes a martyr. He says, oh, look at what happens to me when I speak against the institution. He becomes a symbol or a hero for anti-establishment individuals, and that's not the point here. I'm sure there are many people that would agree with him, as many people who disagree with him. That's not the point here. The point is, where do we draw the line with free speech, and whether the BBC should have aired this in the first place? People can argue about whether this is...
I think the BBC made a massive error.
Exactly, and that's the main point. And I don't really know anyone that is looking at this conflict and is not horrified by what's going on in Gaza.
Yeah.
I mean, it's genuinely awful.
It is. And I think most people have come around to that.
Yeah, it's genuinely awful. So let's worry about a guy who said death to the IDF on stage in England.
Way of thinking that it has to stop. I posted directly to President Trump because I think he hates war and I think he should just put pressure on Netanyahu now to end this. It has to stop.
It has to.
Because apart from anything else, I've got a lot of friends who are Jewish, a lot of friends who are Israelis, and I feel like some get it and some don't, but the way that Israel's reputation around the world is suffering as a result of what they're doing here, I'm not sure it's really being communicated properly to the people of Israel. I don't think they're hearing it. I think there's a kind of put your finger in your ears and not hear it and just keep barreling on. And I feel for the average Israeli who's watching this and probably thinking, wow, what's the reputation of our country around the world? That's not good.
Would it ever recover, especially amongst a generation that's now being groomed to be as anti-Israeli as possible? I mean, if you are...
Well, how much of that is because of their actions, though?
Under 35, this is something that will scar your memory forever. And that really should be the conversation, as opposed to, cheap celebrities pulling these gimmicks. I'm sorry, there's no one in Gaza that's grateful to Bob Vylan for his roadmap and geopolitics.
None whatsoever. It's a bit like when Greta got on that stupid boat. It's like...
It's like you're getting the point, but still like... Well, you're on a panel talking about Bob Vylan, you know what I mean? I don't necessarily have a disagreement with saying, well, why don't we talk about the actual issue? Why don't we actually talk about Israel and Palestine instead of using all these fucking proxies? Oh, this guy has done this. Oh, Hassan and Ethan Klein don't like each other. It's all like this proxy shit. I don't have a problem with showing up to this and saying, well, why don't we focus on the actual issue? But it's like you're still kind of capitulating. But then I don't know if this woman is kind of under Piers' thumb or anything. She's a lot more intelligent than fucking James Barr, at least.
Forever. And that really should be the conversation, as opposed to, cheap celebrities pulling these gimmicks. I'm sorry, there's no one in Gaza that's grateful to Bob Vylan for his...
Why does anyone even care about this shit anyway? Why are all these people like soying the fuck out over it then? Shouldn't you be kind of pointing that at them as well, including your man Piers?
Roadmap and geopolitics.
None whatsoever. It's a bit like when Greta got on that stupid boat. It's like, it doesn't do any good to anybody. James, I'm going to come to you with this. I want to play you a clip of one of my favourite moments from Glastonbury to lift the mood.
Of course it's Rod Stewart. Does anyone under the age of 60 listen to Rod Stewart unironically? I'm sorry, man.
Ran away. Patty gave birth to a 10-pound baby boy.
He's very out of tune.
Love it. Absolutely love it.
Look at this fucking guy, man. Look at fucking Piers Morgan dancing along to Rod Stewart.
Love it. Absolutely love.
He sounds knackered. Isn't he like 437? I think that might be a conservative estimate.
Sir Rod Stewart, do you think I'm sexy? Yes, I do, Rod. You're still doing it. Kicking footballs in the crowd, running around like a teenager. Unbelievable array of banger songs in the legend slot. What's not to love, James Barr?
But he sounds like an XL bully being seized. That's what's not to love. His voice is awful. You can't call that singing.
I think me and James Barr have finally found something we agree on. Wow. Why did he do this? We're talking about like something. And I guess Piers isn't really like getting anywhere. So he just starts sucking off Rod Stewart. They were doing that on fucking Talk TV as well. And talking about how there were no people with Palestine flags. It's because no one under 60 is watching him.
I mean,
his voice was
God bless him.
His voice was great last night.
Really?
Did you watch it? Did you watch it?
I watched
no,
it.
Did you?
Yeah, they just picked one of the worst clips, I guess. That must be it.
I literally just watched that clip.
Yeah, you
that was
watched
the best clip.
You watched 1 20-second clip.
It was not great.
It was a brilliant 90 minutes. It was brilliant.
It wasn't.
Rod Stewart was brilliant.
It wasn't doing great. And I read a few.
Actually, I don't think the reviews were great.
I read some reviews. They weren't great. They were saying he'd taken back feminism years. Listen, he thinks Nigel Farage should be Prime Minister. So
okay, now we're sawing it up.